I never imagined my life would take such a bizarre turn. My name is James, and if life came with movie trailers, maybe I would have seen the warning signs long before everything fell apart. One night, I was about to cook myself some instant noodles, my late-night guilty pleasure, when my wife, Harper, suddenly stood in the bedroom doorway, applying lipstick with almost eerie precision. She looked at me in this unnervingly calm way and said, "Honey, I'm going on a date with my new boss later." I honestly thought I'd misheard. She hadn't been at her new job very long, so I just stood there, wondering if this was a twisted joke. "What did you say?" I asked, my mind still trying to catch up. She ignored me, added another coat of lipstick, then turned around. "Don't make a scene, James. It's really no big deal." My chest felt like it was about to burst. "Do you realize what you're doing?" She rolled her eyes. "Oh, don't be so old-fashioned. Admit it. You're jealous. He's rich, he's good-looking. You might as well face it," but hearing that made my blood boil. "Sure, I'm not some hotshot, but I have a decent job and we've been raising 2 kids together." She just shrugged and said, "We're only having dinner. Maybe a little fun afterward." I already told him tonight might get wild. I couldn't believe the words coming out of her mouth. A wild night. She acted as though our 16 years of marriage meant nothing. "Trying to keep it together," I said. "Harper, if you walk out that door, don't bother coming back." She snorted. "Wow, so dramatic? It's just one night." I snapped, "If you leave tonight, we're over." Without even turning around, she grabbed her purse. "Fine. 16 years. Doesn't matter." She slammed the door, and that was that. In the silence that followed, I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. 16 years of marriage, and now this. The ticking clock in the living room seemed to mock me as I replayed everything she'd said. Anger, shock, and hurt formed a whirlwind of emotion, all threatening to swallow me whole. Then I spotted our wedding photo on the shelf. She was beaming in it, and I looked so cluelessly happy. I lost it for a moment, grabbed the frame, and flung it into the corner. The glass shattered, and it felt like a grim punctuation mark on what used to be our life together. But I couldn't let myself unravel completely. Our kids, Nina and Kyle, were upstairs, sound asleep. I had to protect them from this mess. I quietly went to check on them. Nina was dozing off with her headphones on, and Kyle clutched his dinosaur toy, breathing softly. Standing outside their rooms, I made up my mind. If Harper wanted to leave, fine, but I refused to drag the kids down with us. The next morning, I called Gary, a real estate agent I knew. "I need to sell my house as soon as possible," I told him. "James, are you sure? This is your home," he said, clearly baffled. "Just do it," I replied. Then I logged into our joint bank account, transferring nearly everything into my personal one. Call it cold-hearted, but she'd walked out on me, and I wasn't going to keep my finances wide open for her. After that, I called my lawyer, Clara, and told her to prepare divorce papers. "You're positive this is what you want?" she asked. I didn't hesitate. "Wes, I'm done." That afternoon, I left the divorce documents on the kitchen table alongside a notie. "You made your choice. Now I'm making mine. Don't look for us. You don't deserve us." By evening, I'd packed up what mattered most. Clothes, essentials, the kids' things, and got ready to go. I told Nina and Kyle we were going on a trip. Kyle's eyes lit up, asking if it was the zoo. Nina silently gathered her headphones and sketchbook, anxious but not questioning me too much. We loaded into the car, and I drove for hours, ignoring the constant buzzing of my phone. I knew it was Harper, but I let it go to voicemail every time. Eventually, we reached a new city and settled into a small rental house I'd arranged. It wasn't fancy, but it was cozy enough to start over. Kyle walked around excitedly, yelling, "This is pretty nice." Nina quietly said, "It's better than I thought," but I knew she was still thinking about her mom. All I could give them right then was a stable, calm environment to begin again. Once we moved, my days turned into a juggling act, getting the kids into new schools, dealing with the house sale, and adjusting to single fatherhood. Nina had restless nights, so I'd stay up with her, watching late-night TV or sipping warm milk. Kyle would bug me nonstop about going to the amusement park, and I kept promising we'd go once I got my work situation settled. Sometimes Nina would ask, "Why doesn't Mom try to find us?" My heart twisted each time, but I could only say, "Maybe she's not sure how to face you." The truth was Harper had tried to contact me. Calls, texts, emails. I ignored all of them. She left once, and I wasn't about to let her waltz back in with a flimsy apology. But life slowly found a rhythm. One day, I took the kids grocery shopping. Kyle was busy poking at bread wrappers. Nina was complaining about junk food, and I was on the verge of losing my mind. A gentle voice chimed in, maybe try this apple instead. That's how I met Viviana, a social worker who had a knack for calming chaotic kids. She handed Kyle an apple, and it was like magic. He settled down instantly. I nearly gave her an award on the spot. We exchanged numbers, and she actually messaged a few days later to see if the kids and I wanted to go to the park. I was both cautious and a bit thrilled. At that point, I'd been living in survival mode with no one to really talk to besides my children or my lawyer. We met on a mild afternoon, letting the kids run around while we chatted. Nina took to Viviana quickly, talking about art and music. Kyle asked her to help tie his shoes, which he never liked doing with strangers. Something in me relaxed, like I was finally getting a taste of peace I hadn't known in a long time. Viviana and I started meeting more regularly. She never pressed me about my past, just offered a friendly ear. She'd invite us to do simple things like visit an ice cream shop or browse a flea market on the weekend. Once, she stayed for dinner at our place and joked, "James, why is your cooking so salty every time?" I shrugged in embarrassment, claiming I was born with a salty palate, which made Kyle crack up. The moment felt so normal, so light, and I realized how much I'd missed that sense of warmth at home. Then came a day I dreaded. The doorbell rang one weekend, and there stood Harper, disheveled and on the verge of tears. Her hair was a mess, and her clothes looked like she'd slept in them for days. "James," she whimpered, "please? I'm so sorry. I've lost everything. Let me see the kids. Just once. Please." A part of me remembered our 16 years together and felt a twinge of pity. But I also remembered how easily she'd shrugged off our marriage. "You didn't look this desperate when you left," I said quietly. "Now you want to make amends. It's not that simple." She broke down sobbing. "I'll do anything, I swear. My boss dumped me. I lost my job. Everything is gone. Just let me see the kids." For a brief second, I felt sorry for her. But then I recalled Nina lying awake at night, missing her mom, and Kyle asking why she never called. I couldn't let them be hurt again. So I swallowed any sympathy and said, "I'm sorry, but you brought this on yourself. The kids and I are fine now, and I'm not letting you turn our lives upside down." She tried to push past me, but I shut the door. Her cries echoed through the wood, and I stood there, my head spinning. Upstairs, Nina and Kyle stayed quiet. Maybe they understood that any reunion with their mom would only tear open wounds we'd just begun to heal. Harper kept sending letters and emails, begging to see the kids, flooding me with apologies. I never wrote back. Nina noticed I was ignoring them and only asked, "Dad, you really don't want her around anymore, do you?" I nodded. That's right. She didn't care about us when she left, and now we can't risk letting her back in. Viviana never pried but offered constant support. She took Nina to art exhibits, played toy games with Kyle, and suggested new hobbies to help them process their feelings. "Maybe art classes or sports would be good," she said gently. "They need an outlet for everything they've been through." I couldn't deny how much she understood them. Understood all of us. Slowly, we found our stride in this new life. I worked hard to provide for my family. Nina got involved in her school's art club, and Kyle started nagging me to let him play soccer. On weekends, sometimes Viviana would join us for picnics or museum visits. Whenever I saw them all smiling, I'd think, so this is what normal feels like. Word reached me that Harper's situation had worsened. Her boss ended things with her. She lost her job, and she was living in poor conditions. People asked if I felt bad for her. If I planned to help, part of me sympathized. But another part knew she'd done this to herself. I wouldn't bring her back into our lives just because I pitied her. Meanwhile, Viviana was like a breath of fresh spring air, gently guiding me and the kids forward. She never staged some grand rescue. She was just there in the details, day by day. One evening, Kyle came up to me and said, "Dad, Viviana tells better stories than you do." I faked an offended look, pressing a hand to my chest in mock outrage. Nina giggled, pointing out how I'd told the same bedtime story for years. Joking around with them, I felt a warmth spread through our home, something I thought we'd lost forever. When I look back, I realized that Harper's betrayal, though devastating, pushed me to rebuild my life. If she hadn't walked out, I might never have left that broken house, met Viviana, or seen my kids light up the way they do now. Sometimes, you have to get torn apart before you can remake yourself into someone stronger and better. Today, our life isn't glamorous, but it's filled with genuine warmth. I have a steady job, the kids are happy and thriving, and Viviana has become an essential part of our family's daily rhythm. After dinner, we might all wash dishes together, with Viviana playfully warning us not to flood the kitchen. Some weekends, we curl up on the couch, watch movies, and argue over who gets the popcorn. The sound of Nina and Kyle's laughter reminds me that life can be wonderfully simple. I cherish it because I know how dark it once was. Harper's departure nearly broke me, yet it led me here, to something better than I ever imagined. As I watch my kids laugh and chat with Viviana, I realize we've gained a second chance at happiness, and this time, I'm not letting it slip away.